Welcome to Serious Reefs, Gear Reviews Unfiltered. Got Terrence again with me today. And what are we gonna look at?
We're gonna be looking at Red Sea's line of additives called the Complete Reef Care.
All right, cool. For those of you who don't know, it used to be Reef Foundation is what they used a long time ago. For me, this is actually new to me. It's not brand new or anything, but I've never used it before, but we now looked at it and we got some things to share. Now, normally in your most reviews, you get to wait to the end to find out whether or not we liked it, but not on Unfiltered reviews. We already know the answer, so let's just share it. Would you recommend this to other reefers?
There are a few people I'd recommend it for. I personally couldn't see myself using this. Overall, because of everything that we did, I'd probably, since we rated the others as well, probably like a 3 out of 10.
I'm gonna be kind of nice here and just not give a number because I'd also be pretty low as well because it just isn't for me. But it might be for some other people, and I do know some of the people that it might be for, because if you really bought into the entire Red Sea ecosphere, it might be for you. It is like, I think the highest cost one we tested. So it better deliver on something, and we're gonna find out together today. All right, kicking it off, what is the claim to fame here? Why would people use this or recommend it?
Well, Red Sea is one of the biggest brands in the industry. They do a lot of R&D around all of their products. If there's anybody that could put together a set of solutions that would be balanced and have everything that you think that you need for your reef tank, it would be them.
I feel like, for me, the claim to fame is, I gotta go way back in my memory. I'm at Interzoo for the very first time. I go to their booth in Germany, and for the very first time, instead of hearing, hey, well, use your trace elements and do the 2 milliliters every Tuesday, on Wednesday do 4, and if it's your birthday, do 5, which never made any sense to me, they tied it to calcium. And then they had all those videos out on it and they explained it really well.
Yeah, and before then, you just had one bottle of something that you poured in whenever, and now it was more scientific.
Yeah, it's like they had done the math on this and then they took the time to explain it really well. So claim to fame for me is, I do believe that if you took all the top additive people out there, they're putting more thought into this than most people would. In terms of cost, where do we land with the SR concentration standard?
Well, it was pretty high at $44.75.
I think it was the highest of any of the ones we looked at so far, and it might be the highest of any that I've looked at ever. So it is in the world where the ESV was as low as like $7 for our standard, and $44 is pretty significant. So you better get something for it. And I do think you do get some things for it. You just have to decide whether or not
if that's the value for you. Yes.
Yeah, so where do you think the value is?
I think they take the thinking out of it for the reef keeper. This is best used with their hardware, which is their dosing system that they have, and their app, okay, their ReefBeat app. And therefore, you basically don't have to think about what ratios you need of this and how much you need. You just put in the one number, and it figures the rest out for you.
Yeah. If I had to put it down in like just a couple of things, I'd say you pay a premium for the brand. Red Sea has a pretty strong brand, so you just pay a premium for that. That's kind of normal. I think you pay a premium for the connection with automation and their doser. They put some thought and cost money for them to do that. And I think you pay a premium too for the packaging. It comes in this beautiful box. The top of this actually has like a little doser tube in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you actually don't have to go get your own reservoir. It comes right out of this thing.
It's stacked nicely under your sump, so if you wanted to dose off of these, the dimensioning of them is really nice. There's a lot of thought that's gone into it for sure.
All right, starting with the approach to chemistry. So this is one of those things where you'd assume this is what you're gonna get your money for, so let's look into it. And the very first element of that is always, what form does it come in? Is it dry, is it a slurry, or is it a liquid?
It's a liquid.
There you go. Yeah, it's part of probably what you're paying for too, is you're shipping water all over the planet, so it is just more expensive to do that. It's heavy, but yeah, it is nice to not have to mix the stuff up. All right, pH, I love to raise it. Will this one do it?
I believe it will, based on the things that I saw and the fact it's probably a carbonate-based as opposed to a bicarbonate-based solution.
I'm pretty certain it does because the website actually says that the carbonate portion or the or the alkalinity portion is the same as the Reef Foundation alkalinity one. I had tested that in the past and it had the same pH lift as all the other soda ash options that we tried, so I would presume that that's indeed what it does. But it does raise the pH, which is great. Does it raise the magnesium?
Yes, it does. Says right on the box.
What about the potassium?
Yes, it does. Said right on the box.
Yeah, those are two that are important because not everything does those two things, but actually the potassium is clearly listed on one of the trace elements on there, even though potassium isn't a trace element.
Yeah,
it's included in there. And the magnesium's mixed in with the calcium. All right, trace elements in related to coral consumption. Do they do that?
Yes.
Yes, they are the OGs of that. I think, I mean, if you go back to Reef Foundation, and that was the original one where I heard somebody finally say there, hey, what we're gonna do is we're gonna track calcium, and that's gonna tell us how much of all the other elements to dose, because when the coral uptakes calcium, it takes up these things in equal proportions almost as well.
Up until that point, all I ever did with trace elements, I had this other bottle that just said, I put a capful in it, dropped it in, and wished for the
Super
best.
Trace Deluxe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was like a hallelujah moment for me where I was like, oh, I get you. You know, and like this just makes logical sense, you know, to me. The videos made sense and stuff too. Now there is like a caveat to that for me, which is I do think that the calcium uptake is the scientifically correct way to do it. Meaning the leading indicator here is the calcium. It's fairly easy to test for, and then it's going to uptake all these things in a fairly predictable fashion.
Okay.
But there is another challenge. And the caveat for me here is if you ask the average reefer, what's more important, calcium or alkalinity, what would they say?
100% would be alkalinity.
Every experienced reefer would tell you alkalinity. Now that's the difference between, you know, scientists and reefers.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And reef keepers are seeing every day due to a lot of reasons, obviously coral consumption, but also to make up for, you know, very high levels of CO2 in their house or whatever, you've got these issues with using up alkalinity.
So this is my problem, is like when I do a calcium test kit, like I am not confident in that number because it's the amount of drops and stuff. And if I repeat that number, it could be different each time, right? I might read it different, and I know that because I actually did that experiment with me and a bunch of my peers.
Well, it's horrible for me because I'm colorblind.
Impossible for you. Okay, and also there's just way less of the alkalinity in the water, and so the alkalinity rises and falls like so much more dramatically than the calcium does. And the existence of the alkalinity checker, I mean, I don't know, I can't tell you for sure that is the most accurate option, but I do know it's consistent.
It's repeatable, absolutely it's repeatable. And to add on to this, the downside of you having, say, a 6 DKH in your aquarium is huge. And that can literally happen in a day or 2 days or something like that. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, so I won't say that what they're doing is wrong. In fact, I think it's scientifically correct, but just functionally for me, I use alkalinity as a leading indicator for the things that I do on my tank. All right, the other angle of trace elements, does this one contemplate the eventual increase of salinity and dilution effect?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, I can't imagine, again, a company would not have, like Red Sea would not have thought of this.
Okay, I couldn't find any documentation that says they had explicitly accounted for this in the formulation, but I would be absolutely shocked if they hadn't. All right, ease of mixing these things.
Well, there really isn't any mixing, so it's very easy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to mix, the trace elements into the other ones. You don't have any dry material. So from a mixing perspective, ease of use, 10 out of 10. All right, critical one for me, calculator location.
Yeah, so couldn't find one. With the ReefBeat app is where you would expect it to be found, but you said you looked and couldn't get there.
I couldn't find a calculator I found calculators for the old Reef Foundation one. I couldn't find any calculators for this one on JD's calculator. I couldn't find it on any of the popular retail sites. I couldn't find it on Red Sea's site. Maybe it's in there, I just couldn't find it. And then when I did some research, it said it was in the app. I downloaded the ReefBeat app. I couldn't find it. And the only conclusion I could come to is you actually need to buy that doser.
Yeah, it's probably, it's probably tied to that. And given a 4-part system, it makes a ton of sense why you'd want to have the doser and the dosing instructions and everything in there. So it's probably trying to eliminate that step for people.
Well, it should be there. You shouldn't have to buy the doser because a lot of people are probably dosing this stuff by hand. It comes with little things. So now I might be wrong. If somebody out there knows where the application or the calculator is and it's free, then please put it in the comments. But as it sits, that's kind of a disappointment for me because I just won't use a 2-part system that doesn't have a calculator because how do I know how much to dose if something's down? And so if alkalinity's down, I wanted to dose it independently because
add a little more. Yeah.
And I think the argument here is like, well, these are always in balance and they shouldn't be, but that just does not turn out to be true.
That's not the reality with any of the ones that we've tested that's going to be the case over long term.
I've never found an experienced reefer that would tell you that these things are always in unison.
No way.
Something always happens, and so you need to make a change. There are other sinks for alkalinity in the tank than just calcification. So without the calculator, it's hard for me. All right, ease of daily dosing. This one takes like just a total hard left for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you use the doser, it's super simple.
Yeah, I believe that the way the doser works again is literally you enter in your alkalinity level or your calcium level. And it'll calculate the dose for you. I also have some suggestions, and then it just doses. Now, one thing you should note though is these things are all different sizes. There's 2 2-liter things of alkalinity here. There's 1 2-liter of calcium, and then 2 1-liter sizes of alkalinity. And that's because you got to calculate the dose every day. Do you know what it is?
I'm sure it's some ratio.
Yeah, it is a ratio. So since it's based on calcium, the way it works is they make the calcium more concentrated because you can. So that's just the way it works. Alkalinity can't be that much more concentrated than it already is. So they give you 2 of them instead. So for every milliliter of calcium, you do 2 milliliters of alkalinity, basically double. And then you would go down and recalculate both of the 2 trace elements, which is 1/2 the dose of the calcium, and I've already lost me.
Okay.
Yeah, I am just not going to do that kind of math like on the spot on a daily basis by dosing by hand, and maybe that's why they kind of deprioritize the calculator.
I mean, some may have wondered why I rated it so low in the beginning. It really comes down to if you are a reef keeper who isn't going to have the doser, the idea that I'm going to now have 4 separate things I'm going to dose, and my alkalinity is very important in my aquarium. So it's not like I can do it every 4 days or every 5 days. This is something I'm going to have to do a lot of. No.
Now, the other caveat though here is what if you did buy the doser? So the doser is like $450, I think. This kit right here is like $175. So I'm into this for a pretty penny. But if I did do those 2 things, it might be one of the simplest options, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is if you're paying for the simplicity combined with the brand and the science, then maybe it's worth it.
All right, what about ease of occasional adjustments? Meaning I did my magnesium test kit and it's off, but calcium and alkalinity are spot on. What would I do?
Well, I guess you could take one of these that has the magnesium in it. In this case, it also has calcium in it. You probably could add a little bit more magnesium to it. It's going to add more calcium. Then you're going to have less in this bottle. And then things are going to be out of balance in your bottles.
Okay, so sometimes I would say, all right, with this alkalinity, it's probably just soda ash in here, so you could go ahead and dose this thing just by hand. I probably wouldn't do the calcium and magnesium because they're mixed together. I'd want separate jugs. But the reason I would never do it with this one is because you can't buy these things separately. So if you ever use these things out of order and not in the ratio they said, you're wasting all the other ones.
Yeah, you're always going to have an imbalance between all the levels, and eventually you might have 2 bottles of something that you can't ever get to.
Yeah, so I would, if I was going to stay inside the Red Sea ecosphere, I think I'd probably go buy, maybe some of the foundation elements, the calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium, have those things kind of set on the side for my occasional adjustments, and this would just be my daily dosing because I don't want to waste anything in these jugs. You know what we missed actually was the subjective purity, which means we pour the stuff out in a bucket and we just visually assess it. What do you think?
It wasn't that it was transparent, but amongst all of them that we did, it absolutely was way off. I mean, most of the ones that we did were crystal clear or close to it. This one was markedly different.
Yeah, so it was much browner than the crystal blue, clear water that others kind of match. does the brown mean it's bad? It's certainly not like poison, man.
No.
I mean, like people use this stuff and it's just fine. It's just for me that if I was going to pick, you know, a two-part for me, I'd probably just pick the one that's clear versus the one that's brown. And so for me, this is kind of like another hard left for me.
It might be on me because it might be just fine, but it makes me lose confidence, and I don't want to lose confidence in something that I'm putting into my aquarium. That's all it really comes down to.
I can't, like, I'm not saying there's anything in there that's bad. It's just clearly not visually the same color. I will say though that as somebody who's tested a lot of chemicals, typically the color tint kind of means the stuff hasn't been purified to the same degree, and it does come with some impurities. Is that the case here? You guys can be the judge, but just in my own opinion, this is part of the reason why I probably wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people. And one other caveat here actually is, if this was like the cheapest stuff out there,
For sure.
I might be able to bend the rules for that. But as the most expensive, I got kind of most expensive standards. It's just not hitting it for me.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so final thoughts.
Well, for me, there's not a world in which I would probably ever use this for a multitude of reasons. And as far as recommending it, I think the only people I would probably recommend this to is somebody who's already in the Red Sea system. Maybe they already have some of the other Red Sea gear or Red Sea tank. They like the brand. And they also don't mind spending that extra money.
All right, so I'm going to say this with all due respect, because I do feel like these guys are teaching the rest of us how to do many things right and from the chemicals, and they actually have put way more thought into this than most. But when I put it all together, it just isn't for me. And I am a brand adopter. When I find a brand that I like, I tend to like to buy all of the things from that place, partially out of loyalty, but also partially because it tends to look good together, you know? And so in this case though, even if I was like a full-on brand adopter of all the Red Sea stuff out there, this is probably where I would deviate. I just think that there's options that better suit me and most of the people that rely on me for counsel, and most of them are gonna be at a pretty big cost savings as well. So not for me. All right, so what can we expect next?
Well, we've got something really interesting for the next one because it's completely different than everything else we've talked about so far.
Most of you never even heard of it. It is called NAS.
Yeah, well, that's short for not a fish.
Oh, what a weird thing.
I know.
Okay, what it is a hydroxide-based version which has double the pH of most of the two-parts out there, double the pH increase. It's almost like Kalkwasser, but for two-part. And it's way more concentrated than Kalkwasser, which potentially could be a huge win for a lot of people.
Let's see.
Okay, I've actually always said somebody should make this as a retail product, and if you do, I will highlight it, and that's what we're gonna do next.